Compass roses, ships with sails, limited yet fading colorways, hand-drawn illustrations and lettering, fantastical creatures. Hands down, a vintage-style map. Yes, this is the legendary Piri Reis map. You can easily recognize the coastline of the Atlantic, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, and… Wait, how does this add up? The official discovery of Antarctica is credited to Russian Admiral Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Admiral Mikhail Petrovich Lazarev in January of 1820. Yet this map is from 1513. How could Antarctica be featured on a map 300 years prior and even appear to be done quite accurately? Countless theories and debates have been sparked, notably the one of Professor Hapgood, who argues that the map, judging by its accuracy, must have been done with techniques way above the 16th level. This has led some theorists to suggest… aliens. Others, though, have proposed more practical, yet still controversial opinions, such as one theory that insinuates this map potentially being based on ancient sources, or perhaps even maps from a long-lost super-civilization who has traveled from pole to pole. The author of this map, as the name suggests, is known as Piri Reis, one of the greatest cartographers and navigators of the Ottoman Empire. His full name is Haji Ahmed Muhyiddin Piri, with the Haji part indicating that he had completed the Islamic pilgrimage, the Hajj, by going to Mecca during the dedicated annual period. Reis signifies his rank of captain. Born around 1465 in Gelibolu, a town in the Gallipoli Peninsula in modern-day Turkey, he was trained in navigation and cartography by his uncle, Kemal Reis, a well-known corsair, seafarer and Ottoman admiral whom he accompanied in government-supported privateering and in many important naval expeditions. When his uncle died in 1511, Piri Reis returned to his hometown and devoted himself to his studies about navigation. The map in question was produced during this period, in 1513. Several years later, he returned to the sea and participated in numerous naval expeditions, including the Ottoman conquest of Egypt in 1517 and the siege of Rhodes against the Knights of St. John in 1522. In 1528, Piri Reis completed Kitab-i-Bariye, Turkish for Book of Navigation, which was a comprehensive guide to navigation and seafaring in the Mediterranean and Black Sea. It included detailed descriptions of ports, islands, important cities and coastlines, as well as maps and nautical charts. Then in 1547, Piri Reis was promoted to the rank of admiral, like his uncle before him. Additionally, he was promoted as commander of the Ottoman fleet in the Indian Ocean and admiral of the fleet in Egypt during the Ottoman-Portuguese conflicts. However, Piri Reis was beheaded in 1553 in Cairo at the age of nearly 90, having been found guilty of lifting the siege of Hormuz Island and abandoning the fleet, even though his reason for doing so was the lack of maintenance of his ships. The end. That's it. Over. Please like and subscribe and… not. This video is far from over. Almost 400 years after Piri Reis' beheading, preparations were carried out to convert the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul into a museum in 1929. A German theologian, Gustav Adolf Deismann, had been commissioned by the Turkish Ministry of Education to catalogue the Topkapi Palace library's non-Islamic items. At Deismann's request to search the palace for old maps and charts, Halil Edhem, the director, managed to find some disregarded bundles of material, which he handed over to Deismann. It was on the 9th of October in 1929 that Deismann found a fragment of what seemed to be a part of a world map drawn on gazelle-skin parchment, approximately 87 centimeters by 63 centimeters in size, dated to the month of Muharram in the Islamic year 1919 AH, equivalent to 1513 AD. The map was presented to Ottoman Sultan Selim I several years later in 1517. The map is still housed in the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul even today, but it's not usually on public display. Despite the surviving portions containing only the western tiers of the map, it demonstrates people's knowledge of the global geography by around 1510. Given that America had just been discovered 20 years before the crafting of the map, this is really something. Does all this come from Piri Reis' personal knowledge? Well, inscriptions left on the map by the author transferred a lot of precious information. The inscription 6 particularly has come to our attention, in which Piri Reis indicates the sources that he based on in fabricating the map. From 8 Jafarayas of that kind and 1 Arabic map of Hind or India, and from 4 newly drawn Portuguese maps which show the countries of Sindh, now in modern-day Pakistan, Hind and Chin or China geometrically drawn, and also from a map drawn by Columbu or Columbus in the western region, I have extracted it. By reducing all these maps to one scale, this final form was arrived at, so that this map of these lands is regarded by seamen as accurate and as reliable as the accuracy and reliability of the 7 seas on the aforesaid maps. The claim is rather fascinating in more than one aspect. To begin with it, instead of writing solely about his experience, Piri Reis compiled around 20 charts. If this claim is valid, the Piri Reis map will give us a glimpse at what the now-lost Columbus map might have looked like. There are several elements noticeable on the map, one being a portolan chart, in which the Piri Reis map depicts coastlines, ports, and other features important for navigation, as well as compass roses to aid in orientation. Along with this geographical content, the map, like many other maps from the period, is an Instagram page of fantasy creatures. Chill out there, fairies. Jokes aside, it was quite common to fill unknown territories with mythological beings at that time, additionally providing valuable information about the map's sources, the method of compilation, and the geographic features depicted are Piri Reis' 6 inscriptions on the map. In fact, apart from depicting Antarctica, the Piri Reis map seems to have other anachronistic features. For instance, for many of those familiar with maps, at first glance this map looks like it uses the Mercator projection, while this projection was not created until several decades later, in 1569. For those of you that are unfamiliar, a Mercator projection is a cylindrical map projection that portrays north as up and south as down, while still preserving shapes and directions, making it easier for navigation. A lot of people are also surprised that the Piri Reis map could be so accurate and seemingly uses this methodology before its alleged conception. So, how do we explain all of this? Let's start with the landmass in the southernmost part, which has caused a sensation in the academic and cartographic worlds. Some, amazed at the surprising depiction of the coastline of South America and the Antarctic continent, have suggested that the map's creator had access to information that was not available in Europe until centuries later. But it only requires a not-so-detailed comparison with today's map to cast away this speculation. The main reason being that, at different scales, some sections of coastline can be quite similar. Others have argued that the Piri Reis map did trace the contour of Antarctica, but not today's Antarctica. They believe that the map portrays the coastline before Antarctica was covered by the ice cap. They have their argument rooted in a response on the 6th of July 1960 from the US Air Force to Professor Charles Hapgood's request for an evaluation of the ancient Piri Reis map. 6th of July 1960. Subject: Admiral Piri Reis map. 2. Professor Charles H. Hapgood, Keene College, Keene, New Hampshire. Dear Professor Hapgood, your request of evaluation of certain unusual features of the Piri Reis map of 1513 by this organization has been reviewed. The claim that the lower part of the map portrays the Princess Martha coast of Queen Maud Land, Antarctic, and the Palmer Peninsula is reasonable. We find that this is the most logical and, in all probability, the correct interpretation of the map. The geological detail shown in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap by the Swedish-British Antarctic expedition of 1949. This indicates the coastline had been mapped before it was covered by the ice cap. The ice cap in this region is now about a mile thick. We have no idea how the data on this map can be reconciled with the supposed state of geographical knowledge in 1513. Harold Z. Ohlmeyer, Lieutenant Colonel, USAF Commander. However, if the letters being unsourced is not such a big deal, the fact that the last time Antarctica was free of ice dates back to at least 10 million years ago can easily dismiss the speculation. A third theory, always in favor of Antarctica, considers the continent is indeed Antarctica, but while it was still attached to the continent of South America at today's Uruguay. This theory has been invalidated by geological evidence. Some explanations point out that the presumed connected Antarctica is actually a not precisely mapped southern part of South America, inclined to the right to conform the cut of the gazelle skin. Furthermore, Piri Reis' map is far from being the only ancient map at that time that featured a landmass in the south. such as the 1531 map of Oron-Sfinei, the 1555 map of Pierre de Celiers, the 1570 map of Abraham Ortelius, and the 1587 map of Urbano Monte, to name a few. This does not necessarily represent Antarctica as we know it today, but rather a hypothetical continent that was believed to exist based on Roman geographer Claudius Ptolemy's theory. He posited that a large continent named Terra Australis Incognita, or unknown southern land in Latin, should exist as a counterbalance to the extensive continental areas in the northern hemisphere. The notion was not fully abandoned until circumnavigation of the area during the second voyage of James Cook in the 1770s. British Captain James Cook, that is, not Buffalo Bills running back James Cook.
Just destroys the corner.
So sorry, modern-day James Cook. As previously mentioned, the Piri Reis map uses an interesting projection method. As far as this method goes, the map actually uses a cylindrical projection by stretching the map vertically and horizontally, resulting in distortion at the poles. This distortion can be seen on the Piri Reis map, as Antarctica appears to be much larger than it actually is. While the Mercator projection is also a cylindrical projection, it preserves the shape and angles of objects on the map, but distorts their size and proportions, particularly as latitude increases. The incompleteness of the surviving map may have led to this misread. Regarding the accuracy, studies have found that the map's precision, although reasonably good for its time, varies depending on the location. Regions well known at that time, such as the Iberian Peninsula and African coast, are depicted accurately. The Azores, Canary and Cape Verde Islands are portrayed somewhat accurately, but not to scale. The northern part of South America and much of the Caribbean are mapped fairly accurately, perhaps due to recent maps by Columbus. North America is mostly inaccurate, except for one projection, possibly depicting Newfoundland. Greenland is not included. So, all these seem to be a big coincidence, huh? There is absolutely no consensus among historians and scholars upon the map. As with many historical artifacts, there are often more questions than answers, and the Piri Reis map is no exception. Perhaps in the future, new evidence will emerge and support what seems to be unsolid theses, or new theories would be proposed based on new discoveries. Or maybe, just maybe, we'll never know. Thank you for watching today's episode of Amateur Archaeology. If you enjoyed this topic, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on notifications so you can stay up to date on our latest videos and the ancient coin giveaways we will be doing once we hit 5,000 subscribers. Until then though, we'll see you next time, only on Amateur Archaeology.